Johann Sebastian Bach. It is hard to talk about music without listening to music, so I will refer you to the platform at the end of this course with some of the recordings of these and other extraordinary composers of the 17th and 18th centuries. We start with Johann Sebastian Bach because he represents the Baroque music in all its splendor. German, father of several children, many of them musicians. He ended up his life in 1750 completely blind. Religious music, but all kind of music. Some of his most famous pieces, the Brandenburg Concertos. And by the way, a concerto is a kind of composition that usually consists of 3 movements, and it has a soloist instrument. That's why we talk about a concerto for piano, concerto for oboe, concerto for harpsichord, for violin, for cello, and so on. The symphonic orchestra could have several dozens of musicians, but when we come to a concerto, there will have to be, in addition to the director, a soloist who is going to be one of the main figures. So Bach wrote concertos for practically all the instruments of his time, except the clarinet and the pianoforte, also called today piano. The name piano, which in Italian means soft, was the name of an instrument, more or less designed during the 17th century, but most popular in the 18th century. Mozart uses a lot of piano pieces. Bach, not so many. Speaking of Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, one of the most popular musicians of all times, born in Austria in 1756 in Salzburg, he only lived 35 years of his wonderful, very prolific, productive life. 40 symphonies, several concerts for many instruments, requiems, oratorios, and the Symphony Number 40, for example, which is one of the most important ones, very well known. Remember the tune? You will find it at the platform too. Mozart represents a neoclassical style, as opposed to the Baroque style, which has many more tunes and notes. As in Bach, Mozart simplifies some of his musical expressions in his operas, in his concerts and symphonies, being considered today one of the paradigmatic musicians of the neoclassical or just classical style, together with Joseph Haydn. Joseph Haydn, called the father of symphony, was a mentor to Mozart, a role model for Beethoven. He's the one who normalized the symphonic composition that, as opposed to the concerto, has 4 movements in different tempos. It usually starts with an andante, more or less rapid, then an adagio, slower one, and then the last 2 movements could be andante ma non troppo, or more rapid tunes. Symphony, like a concerto, is like a building. You wouldn't conceive a building with one single room, or like a house. You need to have the living room, the kitchen, the dining room, the bedrooms. So a symphony is conceived as a group of 4 musical pieces that together form a big structure. Just like the concerto is a kind of composition with 3 movements where the emphasis is in one specific instrument. Haydn also wrote many concertos for violin and other instruments, and together with Mozart is considered one of the most important composers of the classical period, located pretty much in the central part of the 18th century, before new composers that we're going to see later, like Beethoven and Brahms, took over new forms and new conceptions of how to express the world as it was conceived at that point for them.